Well, hello everyone. Feel like it's been ages since I've been on Wednesday United with my camera on and let alone giving a talk. Um, but yeah, I'm kicking us off. So you're probably looking forward to the Vanuatu stuff more. So I'll just give enough time for some people to come into the meeting and then to make sure they're here for that. But we are going to hear, I think, some reviews about Vanuatu today. And I know that all that stuff always fires me up, whether it's a Vanuatu trip or for me, I went on a trip to Papua New Guinea, which is pretty much the bedrock of my testimony, but that's another kind of conversation. But you really feel involved in the work when you go on these trips. I do actually have a quick photo just of proof that I went, not that anyone doesn't believe me, but there I am where am I? Oh, you can see me. You can see the blonde, the Justin Bieber trim was going on back then. But I was 15, I believe, went to PNG, and that was just an unbelievable experience. So this is not a talk actually to really drum up people to go on these trips. I'm not Paul Trad, but it is a reminder of how much these can influence your testimony. But I actually want to speak about how much power that we have in us, how much immediate power we have to do the work of the Lord. Because a lot of the time we can't, I'll take this off, that's enough of young me. A lot of the time we can't go on trips for whatever reason, whether it be financially or you've got annoying children or annoying new puppies, whatever it is. It's sometimes it's kind of out of our hands to go on these trips and we feel like we can't be involved heavily in the work. But just want to give a quick reminder from the scriptures that we can do so much just within our local domains and what is within us and our friendships and work colleagues and whatever. So one of the things I heard recently from one of my mates, which is going to probably send chills up some people's spine that people think like this, but this is the state of my friends. They said that they use the old "my sheep shall hear my voice," and they use that to suggest that the word of the Lord will get out to those who God has decided, and we have no influence. They already have, God's already ordained who's coming in. We pretty much don't need to outreach. We pretty much don't need to be vessels, was his underlying argument. And, I had to calm myself down and then try to give a collected response. But, there's scriptures about, we know them all, the field is white unto harvest, faith without works is dead. And we're actually called to be vessels. And without us, the word actually doesn't go out. And there's heaps of referencing scriptures. We'll look at one or two. But when I was thinking about what really limits me from outreaching, it was especially just around home or in the city of Sydney, whatever. It's my concern about offending people. I don't know if people are similar to me, but I'm always worried about offending people with the message and the truth. And you, like, nowadays, you cannot like shake a stick without hitting someone who's going to be offended. Like, you just can't. Like, everyone's going to be offended. Take it personally. It's just the truth at this point. But 2 Corinthians 5:20, you don't have to turn there, but I will just reference it. It says that God makes his appeal through us. So this concern that we have about, offending people is actually, we can kind of take comfort in the scripture that God is going to make his appeal through us if we are willing vessels. And I don't know if anyone's ever felt super compelled to say something and we didn't. I think that's a pretty universal experience. I reckon most people on the Zoom call have had that experience. You wanted to say something, you didn't, for whatever reason. And the other day, I don't know if she's on the call, I don't want to embarrass her, but I was with Esther and we were in a super crowded elevator and the elevator was dead silent, super quiet. No one saying a word, no elevator music. It was just awkward. And I just wanted to just yell out something like Acts 2:38 or something and just run off. But I didn't because it felt really wrong to do. And then I went away and I said to Esther, we were getting food or something. And I said, do you feel really annoyed that I said nothing to those people? And that just showed me that it probably wasn't the right time. It was an elevator, and those people had no choice. Like they couldn't get out if they wanted to. But it's just an example of how those situations do pop up super frequently, and it feels wrong. We feel this clashing of the spirit and the flesh to say something and to not. And we really need to push through with these ideas that we're going to have a look at. So if we all turn to Acts 8, I'll use the remaining 30 seconds or whatever I got of my time. Sorry, Sammy. If we go to Acts 8, and it's a story of Philip, the evangelist. And we see just earlier in the story that Simon, who was a very proud man, and everyone thought he was pretty much God. They thought he was an unbelievable God-ordained man who, with his sorcery and whatever. And we see him get humbled. So that would have, and accept the message of Christ and salvation. And that just shows that someone would have had to speak to Simon. That's a difficult, confronting, likely is a very nerve-wracking situation to speak to someone of his stature, but they spoke to Simon, and we know what happened as a consequence of that. We speak about him quite a bit. But if we go to Acts 8, and we're going to go down to verse 27. This is the story of Philip and the Ethiopian eunuch. And in verse 27, it says, "And he arose and went, and behold, a man of Ethiopia, a eunuch of great authority, under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who had the charge of all her treasure." So immediately, the kind of story outlines to us that this is a big dog. Like this eunuch is a big kind of deal. He deals with the treasure, so he's got a lot of ties, as they say. So it wasn't an easy task, and that, for me, that's super relatable, because everything feels like a difficult task to speak to someone like that guy at the cafe who orders, I don't know, like a long black, and you're like, he's probably a lunatic, or what is he doing? You don't want to speak to that guy. But then someone orders a hot chockey, and you see a little marshmallow there, and you feel more comfortable speaking to them. But it's saying, like, Philip went to the big dog. He went in, all guns blazing. In verse 28, it said, had come to Jerusalem for to worship, was returning and sitting in his chariot, reading Isaiah the prophet. Then the Spirit said unto Philip, "Go near and join thyself to this chariot." And Philip ran thither to him and heard him reading the prophet Isaiah. So this, again, that's a great little thing to note, that Philip ran. And I've heard a talk given just on that. The title was Philip ran for the talk. But it just shows the intensity that, it says just earlier that the Spirit, in verse 29, that the Spirit said unto Philip. So he felt that feeling when you feel compelled, like when you're in the elevator, whatever it is, and you feel like you should say something. And Philip ran towards the opportunity. He was actually worried that he would lose this person in the chariot, and therefore not be able to show him what the scriptures meant, and therefore maybe lose a soul. Because I don't know if people feel like that, but sometimes after I don't speak to someone, I feel like, is that person ever going to hear the message again? Or was that my time? I know, the Lord has it in hand, and someone else will come down the line or whatever. But I feel this responsibility that Philip had, that you have to run to them with this intensity. And so Philip ran to him, and he heard him reading the prophet Isaiah, and said, "Do you understand what you read?" And he said, "How can I, except some man should guide me?" So that's just pretty descriptive, I think, of everyone kind of in the world. They might have a knowledge of scriptures exist, but at least here the eunuch identifies that, no, I actually don't understand. Can you tell me? And then it says in 31 that he desired Philip to come and sit with him. And then if we quickly scroll down or flip over, whatever you're doing, to where are we? Verse 38. And now we see the fruit that comes from Philip's confidence in the word and his willingness to tackle the big dog, the big fish. In verse 38, and he commanded the chariot to stand still, and they went down both into the water, both Philip and the eunuch, and he baptized him. And when they were come up out of the water, the Spirit of the Lord caught away Philip, that he saw the eunuch no more, and he went on his way rejoicing. So we see that the blessing was not only for the eunuch got to hear the word of the Lord. His salvation was there, but Philip also got fired up. Like he went in, baptized the eunuch, and was so excited, didn't even have time to hang around. He ran off, whatever, to dry himself, or to just, he was just, and I think that feeling is so relatable when you have a good conversation or a good witness with someone, and then you just really fired up to keep going, and you just feel that spiritual fire, whatever it is inside you. And I think this story of how Philip was willing to go for the big fish and to tackle that situation, whether it be something at work, and I still have that person in my mind who I'm not ready to step up to that big fish yet. I'm anxious, and then again, scriptures, be anxious for nothing. They all just pop in kind of our heads, and I think tonight's just an encouragement, especially considering we're going to hear about the Vanuatu trip, and the people over there are so receptive to the message, and it really makes evangelizing exciting because they just want to hear the word. But that is not an excuse for us to not tackle the big fishes and the ones who are maybe harder nuts to crack. If you know what I mean, the ones that are around us, the one that, especially in Sydney, is crazy. If someone has a certain appearance, we heard a talk from Brad Gibson on the weekend, and he said, if there's two people in a park, one's a big guy with tattoos and a mullet and a leather jacket, and a baseball bat in his hand, and the other one's a old grandma, who are you going to pick witnessing? And the answer's probably the grandma. She's probably got cookies or something in her handbag. But like, it's so natural for us to pick that option. But the truth is they're both equally deserving of hearing the word of the Lord. And we need to be confident that we can be used as a mouthpiece for the Lord and tackle these people. But yeah, quick encouragement, I guess, to get to those trips and to really get involved in evangelizing, but also to see what we can do with the immediate power that has been invested in us, that Jesus speaks about there through his disciples in the Gospels. I think I'll leave it there. Amen.